Good morning, everyone. We are excited to be here today with Sevilla Morgan. We are talking about success and the female entrepreneur. Sevilla, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Donna.
Hey, I had the privilege of interviewing Sevilla for my podcast, my radio show, the Living at My Best radio show, and that will actually record this or go live this week. So, Sevilla, that just worked out
Looking forward to it.
phenomenally. So, we get to just add a little bit of information so people get to know you more, a little bit more. Sevilla is an author. She's written an incredible book. We're going to talk about that today. A motivational speaker. She hosts a podcast of her own and she blogs. She is the vision of that entrepreneur who has taken something that was in her heart and turned it into a life mission. So, Sevilla, would you just, as we kind of chat this morning, would you tell everyone about your platform and why you have created it?
Wow. I told somebody about my platform last night. It was a young man, actually. And he said, wow, that's a heavy subject. I said, it is. But my platform is to speak to and encourage women who are childless, not by choice. I want them to realize and recognize that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and that we can still live a joyful and relevant life, although we did not have the children we desired. That's my elevator speech.
Well, that is an incredible platform because I know a lot of women who are childless and it's not by choice.
Mhm.
They would do anything to have children. So, how have you been able to um, um, speak to women around the world about your heart cry and your heart mission?
I do a lot on social media right now. I don't think, well, I shouldn't speak for God. I have to try to remember not to do that. But I at this point I'm online. I'm online and I attend local events wherever I can. And whenever God is ready for me to get out into the world and have the conferences or whatever it is he wants me to do, I'll do that. But for now, I'm good. As far as just spreading the word locally and online, that I'm creating the space and the place for us to talk. Us meaning women who are childless, not by choice, because I don't see a place or a space. I know that there are people who have written books, and honestly, most of the books that I've seen were written for and about women who did not want to have children because
Mm.
of maybe things they went through in life and they don't want to bring a child into this quote unquote world, or they just decided not to have any, or they put the career first or whatever. But the people I'm talking to, the women I'm talking to, are the women who wanted. They spent thousands of dollars on infertility treatments, or what, they just couldn't have the children, or are not yet able to have the children, because I know there are women who are still trying and still able to try. So
Hmm.
I want to create. I told someone the other day in another interview, I want to start trouble. I want to up the apple cart and create the conversation in normal society about the women, those of us who are childless, not by choice, and what we go through, and how you can help us instead of looking the other way, pretending it's not happening, or just making excuses, saying, "Oh well, they didn't want any children anyway." I want to create a normal conversation, what I call facing the monster.
And so, in creating that real conversation,
Mhm.
Sevilla, how do you how do you find that balance in there to be able to talk to the general population? Because I know I'm like you, I know lots of people who do not want to have children.
Right,
They don't want to be told that they should have children.
right.
And they so somewhere in the middle of that balance of that conversation, how have you been able to create a platform where you can speak boldly, speak concisely and have people really hear you, because as a woman, sometimes our voice gets silenced and we're not able to really share that.
I think that's the beauty of God, because God created all of us. He created our personalities, and I've been hearing a lot lately. He created us to do what it is that we're doing, and whether I like it or not, I wanted children badly.
Mhm.
Wanted children. I wanted at least one. And I out of that pain, I have decided that first of all, I couldn't be the only woman going through this, not with
Right,
7 billion people on the planet.
right.
And why am I not hearing anything? And why am I not hearing a conversation about this? Why are people looking the other way or treating you like you're weird because you're in your 40s and childless?
Yeah,
Why am I an anomaly in 2015? I shouldn't be. There shouldn't be that many anomalies left in 2015. We've come too far as a world and as a society. And so I
yeah,
wanted to create the conversation. And in that conversation, I make it quite clear to everyone that we live in a society, at least here in the Western world, the United Kingdom, United States, Australia, the Western Canada, where women do have a choice. We have the choice not to have the child if we don't want to have any kids. But we also need to be able to have a choice to say that we wanted to have children. We should be allowed to say that we wanted to have children or
yes,
and couldn't. And so I make it quite clear that I am speaking for the woman who wanted children, not against the women who have children or didn't want to have any.
right.
You can do both.
Well, and I think that that is a powerful way to put that, that we do, and that's a whole other
Hmm.
conversation about choice,
Right.
and I have a feeling that I know how you feel about that. I know how I feel about
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
But it is your right to want to have children,
Hmm.
just like it's another woman's right to not want to have children.
Right.
So, what are you trying? I mean, in that message, you're saying that it's something that you deeply desired, you weren't able to have, but that doesn't mean that your life is not able to be a fulfilled life.
Yeah.
So, how have you turned this part of pain in your life into something that serves and is able to help other women?
I I believe in definitely as human beings, we should take care of ourselves.
Uh-huh.
Whatever our status is, wherever we find ourselves in life, we should do the best with what we have. And in my doing the best with what I have, although childless, not by choice, my best is to serve others. And I do have a servant spirit and I have a giving spirit. And that many times means that I have to also, and I have prayed for the spirit of discernment
Mhm.
so that I don't, I don't end up, all used up and just getting nothing done. And so I've been listening to, oh my gosh, it's just amazing lately, just the things God has put in place, things for me to listen to, people to hear from that I know are godly people. And it's just like he's setting me up. The November will be a year since I quit my job in corporate America. And it's naivete told me that the moment I stepped out of corporate America, I would have all the speaking engagements and people would see what a wonderful message this is. And, everything would be great. And no, that's not what happened.
Not at all,
Not
huh?
at all. What happened or what's happening is God has really prepared me. He's been spending the entire year preparing me, and he's not finished. I know he's not, but he's been preparing me mentally, emotionally, physically to do what it is I need to do. And I'll be quite transparent. I was crying this morning.
Oh,
There's a 24/7 prayer line that I've been listening to. It's all month of October. This particular ministry is doing a 24/7
wow.
prayer. And so I've been listening since about October 2nd at all hours of the day. Sometimes it's a recorded message, sometimes it's live, and she's brought other people, other ministers in to pray when she's not, on the line. And Oh my goodness. So I called in this morning because, as I've always told people, I'm not going to pretend to be the pillar of strength because I'm not. And I've already said I'm not strong enough to do this. I say it multiple times, and maybe God doesn't even want me to say it like that. But I am not the pillar of strength. I have my ups and downs, and I have my moments where I tell God, this is not what I want to do. And I told him that from day one. I don't want to do this. It's too hard. And
Yeah.
apparently he thinks I'm strong enough. And that's what the lady said on the prayer line this morning. I'm like, where did she get that from to use that term? You're strong enough. And that's what she told me just before she prayed for me. So,
Wow.
oh my goodness.
Well, and I think that that is an important thing for women who are stepping out to follow and pursue their passion and
Hmm.
follow and pursue what they believe they've been called to do. That just because you have that deep, rich calling and that truth in your life doesn't mean it's going to be easy.
No.
And it doesn't mean that you'll step, like you said, step outside your door of corporate America and,
Yes.
oh,
The angels singing.
angels singing and all kinds of wonderful things. Now, I believe that we have favor and that doors of opportunity open for us, but
Hmm.
it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. And I think that some of that journey is so that we can have other things to give people and learn. So, in your journey that
Hmm.
you've had to learn about following what you were made to do, what could you tell someone else today that you've learned about this journey? You know, it's a faith journey, but it's your entrepreneurial journey.
Right.
It's telling people and sharing what you're called to do. What's some advice you'd give that woman who's sitting there and she's maybe like, I don't know if I'm ready?
That was me. And again, being transparent, I told God no for a long time because I wanted that regular paycheck.
Yeah.
And so for a year before I left, it had been on my heart for years that there is no conversation happening.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever the opportunity came up to educate someone, that making comments like, well, she's in her 40s. Why is she even trying to pay all this money to have this child? To educate people, I always found myself like defending and educating on something I think women should understand, which is
Mm-hmm.
we were created and built to want to birth and nurture another human being. So I always was perturbed by women who said things like, "Oh, well, you didn't need any children anyway," or "They're too much work," or "You can have one of mine," or the silly things that people say. I felt that for years that I was always educating people, and at some points I felt like I feel like a troublemaker. But at the same time, I'm not. I need to get this word out. And
Mm-hmm.
so for a year before I left, I felt God saying, you need to do this. You need to step out. And I kept saying, this is not the right time. And financially, it doesn't make any sense. And as I
Mm-hmm.
said in another interview, I have a financial services background. And all
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about is I'm in my 40s and I need to be building my 401k. This is not making any sense to me to quote unquote step out now.
Right.
That's not God. God.
Right.
So I kept putting it off. And then last November, around late last year, my pastor gave a sermon. And it, it might as well have just been God. I just felt so convicted. And at the same time, I kept hearing God in my spirit saying, it's now or never. It's now or never. That's all I kept hearing all over and over. It's now or never. And finally I said, okay, okay. So I put my notice in last November. And so this November makes 1 year. It's not been easy. And so to answer your question, I would say that anyone stepping out of corporate America or stepping out of their comfort zone, because I am way out of my comfort zone. I'm such an introvert. It's not even funny. So I am way out, but I did it because I felt deep inside that God told me to do it.
Yeah.
So the answer is you've got to have that conviction, and it's a conviction that won't go away, no matter how you try to push it away with common sense and anything else, any things that make sense, and that you're pushing it away with everything. With oh, you have children to take care of, you have a husband, whatever it is, that conviction keeps taking over. When you least expect it, it keeps jumping inside your, like I say, your belly.
Mhm. Yeah.
Then it's time. Of course, you have to have common sense in your business dealings. And I don't know why I'm being so transparent this morning, but fortunately, I had a 401k.
Good.
So the last year has been, I wouldn't say easy financially, but it's been bearable.
Uh-huh.
But now I'm at the point now where I am relying on God, and that's what He always does to us. So I knew this time was coming. I knew the point was coming where He was going to say, "Oh, okay, now you really have to trust me." This ought to be interesting.
It ought to be interesting. I have found in my own entrepreneurial journey, Sevilla, that it's at those times whenever we're really there that it seems like the doors break open
Hmm.
more. The opportunities show up more for us because we're not depending on our own resources and
Right,
our own abilities. And that being said, it is important to make a plan
right.
before you make a choice. I mean, I worked with a lot of women who started a business and then boom, they were going to just quit everything.
Mhm.
And it was absolute disaster for
Mayhem.
them. So you do have to make sure that you have a plan in place for
Right,
that.
right.
But when it's time, it's time.
Exactly.
And you can't just keep waiting around because I think that can be as damaging as not taking
Of
the
not
leap
having a
as
plan.
right of
Right,
not having all of that in place.
right.
So tell us how you share your message. Share with us the different ways that you're out there telling people about what you do and the reason you do it.
Well, I go out to local events. I belong to two, what do you call them? I guess event groups, I guess, where they they produce the event or plan the event for you. You pay
Oh,
an
okay.
annual fee, and then you just send you to so many events, or they provide so many events for you.
Hmm.
And so I go to those locally, and as you mentioned earlier, I have a podcast, and the name of my platform is 21st Century Hannah. And so that's the name of my podcast. And on that podcast, that's what I talk about. It's either through I have about 15 shows on there because I just started in July.
Hmm.
So 15, 16 shows. And so most of those, well, we call them episodes in podcast land. Most of those episodes are from when I had a radio show. I stopped the radio show and transferred everything over to my podcast. So I always mention this so people are not confused when they're listening to my podcast. Depending on what episode they're listening to, it could sound like it's on the radio because it was.
Hmm.
I also have a couple of blabs on there, and then whenever I'm interviewed, like I was interviewed by you,
Hmm.
I'll post that onto my podcast. So podcasting is the big thing, big piece of the puzzle. The going out to local events, the 31-day devotional that I've written, and the 365-day devotional that I'm working on now. And those are all geared towards the woman who is childless, not by choice. However, I've been hearing from people who are not necessarily childless, that by choice, not by choice, who are enjoying the books.
Good.
So I said, thank you.
Well, because there are, I'm sure there are a lot of lessons that you've learned through your journey that can be applied to all different places and phases
Right,
of life.
right. And pains,
Right.
different losses.
Different
Right.
losses. As you have been building your platform and building your business, did you have a strategy for that? I mean, you have financial background. So I'm kind of thinking you're kind of a a 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 kind of person, but did that translate into your strategy for how you would communicate your message?
I am a planner. I already have my 2016 day timer. I went and bought that a couple of weeks ago. I can't help it. I just everything is listed out. I have a to-do list for every day,
Uh-huh.
and I manage it so that I don't get overwhelmed. But there are times when I may have to pen a couple of things forward. But everything is strategic for me,
Hmm.
and that's hard when you have to hear the voice of God. So I have to balance between hearing what He's saying,
Hmm.
and honestly, I'm in a season right now where I'm up to this morning during my prayer time and after my prayer time, I said, "Okay, God, I'm listening and waiting to hear from you now because I need to know next steps. I don't know what to do next, but I continue to doing what I can to be doing what I can in the meantime." So every day I get up after my morning devotions, I have a plan for the day. Does life happen? Yes, life happens. Fortunately, like the other lady PK was saying, she's
Hmm.
on her iPad. Fortunately, if I have to be someplace, my iPad comes with me, and I have books with me at all times. And so, yes, everything is as strategic as I can make it while still trying to hear from God. It's not always easy.
And I think too that sometimes people believe that if you're a led by the spirit kind of a person, that means you can't have a plan or you can't have a strategy, that somehow that is unspiritual. Could you speak to that too?
I always say that God is not the author of confusion. I love that because He wants us to use our common sense. Yes, He wants us to hear Him and listen to Him, and we have to do what He says. What He says comes first, but He doesn't want us to sit here all day doing nothing because we're waiting to hear from Him either.
Right.
So we have to use our common sense and do the best we can because He chose us. As I said earlier, He chose us to do what we're doing for a reason because He made our minds a certain way. He made our thought processes a certain way, and so I'm on social media quite a bit, but it's not because I'm on there playing around. It's because I'm trying to get the message out. And so I have a private group, which I've been thinking about taking it to a closed group because I was advised. And that's another thing. I listen to what people say. I don't have a problem with being educated because it'll get me to where I need to get to faster.
Right.
If I hear from people who may have other ideas, better ideas, different ideas. And so I think we need to be able to be teachable, and the discernment will come in by, whether these people are telling us something to lead us down the wrong way or whatever. Um, that's where discernment comes in.
Yes.
And so we have to be teachable. We have to use what our education, what everything that God has given us, everything we've been through, everything God has given us, every experience will be used. So He will use my financial services background in the future. He will use my specialty pharmacy background in the future, and the fact that I was not allowed to move up in that pharmacy, although I thought that's where I would go and retire,
Ah.
it didn't happen. And so, but my department sat near the infertility team. He's going to use those experiences. I always say God has a sense of humor because I didn't think it was funny to be to have to be sat near the infertility team. It was not funny to me,
Oh my gosh.
but there I was. And those were the times when I would hear comments like, "I don't even know why she's spending all this money. She's in her 40s. Why is she spending this money?" And that's when I would butt heads with certain people because they had children. It was always amazing to me. The women that made these comments had children. Can't you just put your shoe on the other foot and think about what if you didn't have your children?
Right.
No, people don't think like that. So everything I've been through, all of the surgeries, all of everything I've been through will be put to use. And that's how I look at it.
Well, I know that you are an author and you've written some devotional book. You've written a devotional book,
Right.
and would you tell us a little bit about that and how that
You know what?
works and helps? Do you have a picture of it or a
I,
copy
I,
of
I
it you
was
want to
just looking
hold
for it. And I
up?
just realized that I never unpacked from my last speaking engagement.
Okay.
I
Okay.
carry a little carry-on suitcase so I can just roll it around. But
Uh-huh.
here are some still in the package. It's a tiny book. I'm gonna take open up this package, but it's a
Mhm.
tiny because it's a 31-day devotional. It's
Uh-huh.
tiny. The 365-day devotional, which I really hoped to have finished by the end of this year, is probably not going to happen because with the 365-day devotional, the content typically only comes to me in the morning when I wake up. So I
Okay.
try all day, the rest of the day, to come up with something. Typically, nothing happens. So I said, okay, okay, God, I got it. I'll just write in the morning. So when I wake up in the morning, I have it right below. It's on my nightstand with my Bible and my devotional. The book that I write the 365-day content in is right there as well. I don't know. I just have to. It's not easy relying on God when you have such a. But He made me this way with this strong personality. So I know He knows why He did it. Anyway, this is the 31-day devotional. You see how thin it is because it's just 31 days. That's a picture of me on the back from 2008, so my younger years. But this is the book. God is within her; she will not fall, and it
Mm.
can be ordered on my website at sevillamorgan.com. And there are two books on there. There's one I wrote back in 2008, totally different subject, but this is on there as well. And then whenever the 365-day one is finished, that will come out and it will have my logo on it. And I don't know everything. Why did I do that? Everything is packed away in that suitcase that I carry. But I have a logo that a gentleman made for me. And I just love how creative we are as human beings. I told him what my mission was, what my platform was. Bless you. And he, based on that, and I told him what colors I needed. And so I used the royal colors that God said,
Mm.
purple, and I kind of toned it to lavender, but I used what I call God's color. And what he created out of what I told him I want to do is just simply amazing. And I'm going to see if I can get it before we're finished, but it's also on my website at sevillamorgan.com. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
You did. And is that the only place that your books are available on your website? Are they available any other place?
On my website or on me, because I always keep copies, because this was self-published. This was published
Hmm.
shortly, no, this was published in May. And so I had it quickly self-published and keep it on me and on my website. And
Okay.
then the next book, the 365-day version, I want to have that published the quote unquote old fashioned way. So
Uh-huh.
I can have it on Amazon. My first book is on Amazon. So I can have it available in bookstores. But I want that logo that I was just talking about on the front of
Hmm.
that book as well. Whereas you can see on this one, I just grabbed this because this one really just spoke to me.
Hmm.
And, God is within her, she will not fall. And I just feel like that's a powerful message, although it's taken out of a scripture that
Hmm.
he's talking about a river. I think it was a river, but
Hmm.
I just believe that it's powerful. It kind of empowers women to realize that if you just keep God within you, no matter what you're going through, you'll be okay. You will not fall.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. There are, let me make sure. I wanted to cover everything.
Okay.
What would you like people to understand, Sevilla, when you're talking about your message? I don't think that anyone who listened to you for more than 2.5 minutes would think that you're saying, "Oh, poor me." You're not. That's not the message. So,
No.
what do you want people to understand?
I want everyone to understand that not everyone is living the same kind of life.
Mm.
So if you are married with children, that's wonderful, but not everyone is married with children. And even there are married people who don't have children. So not everybody's living the same kind of life. Not everybody has soccer practice on Saturdays to take the
Mm.
kids to or to school and I always have to battle not sounding being jealous or hateful because that is not what my intent is. My intent is to make society realize that there are different people with different lives, and everybody just wants to be, um, as human beings, all human beings should be able to live lives of self-respect and to be respected, to have their boundaries respected. And I mentioned this in another interview too. Single and childless is still a family unit.
Yeah.
I'm still a family. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that was on your interview actually.
I think we did talk about that.
Yeah, it's I'm still a family unit. I still my time is still important. And so we still have to respect each other's boundaries because a lot of times, I don't know if they still do it so much now, but a lot of times when I was in corporate America years ago, people would make comments like, well, I can't work this shift because I have kids. Why don't you see if one of the single people can do it? Things like that. And then you at that time, I wasn't as outspoken as I am now. So you just kind of go with the flow, not to make waves and rock the boat. You are always the single childless person. So you got the other shift that people didn't want. And of course, I can understand that you want to be home for your kids. I think people should be home when their kids get home, if at all possible, because of the world we live in. There should be a parent there, if at all possible, when the children get home. But it's not, I mean, I know it's not always possible, but I understand it and I agree with it. But don't say check with the single person or the childless person. Say, I can't do that schedule. I have children, and leave it there. I think we just need to understand that we all need to respect each other no matter what our family unit looks like.
That's so smart. So smart. I wonder if you could give us maybe some advice to or some things to say if whenever we meet a woman or a man, because there are men who would love to have children and they don't have children, so that's another group of people entirely, but still involved with the same thing. What can we say and not sound like we're insensitive or uncaring?
I I think that depends on the situation. I think we will know what to say if we take a minute or a few seconds to think before we talk or before we ask a question or before we make a comment. Just take a few seconds to process what the person, and I think the person would appreciate it too. They would see that you're thinking, and they may even give you an out or make a comment before you do. But if you just start talking and then you say the wrong thing, it's hard to take it back. So if you give a person a few seconds, if you ask, people ask me all the time, do you have children? No, I don't have any children. Okay. And the last woman that did this, she said, oh, okay, well, that's fine. She said, I have two daughters. And then we started talking about, I think one of her daughters sang in the church praise team. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. What was your daughter? So we start talking about her kids. And
Mm-hmm.
then if she had any questions for me, you can always tell a spirit. You can tell the spirit of the person. You can tell typically that people mean well or they don't mean well. And so I think on one end, people just need to take a few seconds before they say anything. And
Mm-hmm.
on the other end, you just have to know, don't take everything so personally. And honestly, that is a part of my personality is sometimes I can tend to take things personally. And I know that about me. So I check myself too. And so I try to make sure I give people an out, I give them a second chance. And then if I still discern a bad spirit, then I move away from the conversation. But
Right.
something that you said about men, I had an interview. There was another podcaster. I don't know if you know him. His name is Dr. Vibe. He's out of Canada. And he speaks mainly to men. His platform, his podcast is mainly, towards men. And he interviewed me a few days ago and he asked me, what about men? And had to tell him that honestly, I didn't realize the impact that this could have on men until I was sitting down speaking to one of my doctors. And I gave him a copy of the 31-day devotional. And he said, men suffer too. And I was speechless because I never thought about it. And of
Yeah.
course, it makes sense, especially if you're a married man and your wife wants children and you're having problems having the children. Of course, he's going to suffer too, because chances are he wants children as well, or he's having to figure out how to interact with his wife because she's not happy. So I told him about the story of Hannah, which is that's how I got the title to my platform, is because Hannah was initially childless, not by choice, in a time when that's what women were there for, was to bear
Hmm.
children. And Elkanah asked Aunt Hannah why he wasn't enough for her,
Yeah.
and so men have to have the conversation with their wives about why, quote unquote, he might not be enough for her. It's not that they're being mean or wrong. They have to understand somehow. They're going to have to communicate with each other that women are built and made to want to nurture a child, a human being, and bring that human being into the world, nurture that person to adulthood, and that it's nothing personal. But you're okay, and I'm thankful you're my husband, but I want a child. And
Okay.
so I think the bottom line is going to have to be conversation, because this is a heart issue,
Yes.
and heart issue and emotional issues, especially when it comes to women. With our emotions, we also have to learn how to check our emotions and know when something is coming from a place of emotion versus common sense. We
Mhm.
have to check ourselves too. So I don't lay any blame on the men when it comes to that. I think it's a two-way street. And as I said in the other interview, you're on the same street. You guys married each other for better or for worse. So I would advise you all to converse. I would advise him to do some research on women, on the way we're made up, and then figure it out together. Stay together and get it together.
I love that.
Yeah.
Get it together and keep it together. And I
Yes.
love that. Stay
Yes.
together. I want to kind of just take a little sideways track here
Okay.
because you're talking about with a husband or not have with a husband. It could be any number of things, but you have a platform and a message that is more of a heart centered, personal experience,
Hmm.
growth. You have created and are creating this message and this mission to help others. As women who are out in the marketplace, who are looking for a way to express that purpose and passion, I think sometimes we can feel like, oh, uh, my message is a little too woohoo or too touchy feely, and people really won't want to hear it, and it can't be profitable, it can't move forward. What would you say to a person who's thinking that maybe what they want to share in the marketplace or build a platform on isn't marketable or important enough? What would you say to them?
If it's a message that's deep down in your gut, in your belly, you wake up thinking about it, you go to bed thinking about it, it's a message. It's your message, no matter what it is. And it may not be marketable initially, but if you keep working on it, which is something I try to get God to allow me to do. Why can't I continue working in corporate America and do this at night and on the weekends? But he told me to step away completely. And so whether he's telling you to step away completely from corporate America or to do this on the side, because people have hobbies that they do on the side. People make room for what they want to make room for.
Right.
People make room for their priorities, whatever those priorities are. And if you have something that you're so passionate about that you think about it all day, every day, but you know you have a job to do, then yes, do your job. And when you go to work, do the best job you can. But you can make room and you will make room for what it is that your passions are, whatever it is that God has told you to do. You can get it done. There are no excuses. Everybody
Oh,
has the same 24 hours, and there are no excuses.
that is so smart. So smart. Well, Sevilla, what I'd like to do now is to just kind of open it up and see if PK has anything that she would like. Looking down, it's like the Brady Bunch, isn't it? She's down there underneath. So, to see if PK has anything that she would like to ask you or share, and if we have anyone in our audience that has a question that they'd like to um, ask you or enter into the conversation with you, open up that other seat and let people chat with you for a few minutes. Okay. So, PK, do you have something you'd like to share or ask?
Well, first of all, I would just like to say thank you very much. I think you're spot on with this. This topic isn't started in the beginning of time when Hannah couldn't have a baby, and it ends up now. And I've had friends that, married couples who have been infertile. And you said something that even after 30 years of being friends with them, didn't quite occur to me. We knew they wanted children and it just wasn't going to happen. So they've made a great life together. But just one little comment, like I had never thought about, I wonder what do on Saturday, because I was busy with children. And so there are always things that we can learn. So I just applaud you for stepping up and taking on something that is sensitive for both sides. Sometimes it's like when someone dies, you don't know what to say. But in this case, that is, although the loss for the person goes on forever, but we're not in contact. And so I just, again, I think you have a platform that's needed, and blessings to you for standing up and taking on a tough subject.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
That's great.
Wise words.
Thank you.
Does anyone, we've got a couple of people out there, does anyone else have something they'd like to ask or chat? You can jump into the open seat that we have there. Anyone? No? Okay. Sevilla, do you have any last words that you'd like to share with people before we finish up today?
Something PK said is something that I always say. Dealing with childlessness is kind of like death. People don't know what to say. And so that's why I always say that take a few seconds before saying anything, if you're in a conversation or just starting a conversation with somebody, to hear what they're saying and let it process. And they will know. They know that you're processing it because they feel the spirit that is coming from. So it's nothing to feel bad about if you don't know what to say, but just your spirit will be saying something for you. Let me put it that way. And so I appreciate you saying that, PK, that it's true. I always liken it to death. No, people don't know what to say really, but I would just ask people to, every time I'm interviewed, anytime I have the opportunity to speak, it's an opportunity for me to spread the word. So when I'm speaking to other people, you're helping me spread the word. And I appreciate that, because I know that now you're going to say, oh, I know somebody that you can talk to, because everybody knows someone who is childless, not by choice. Everybody. And so now that this space and this place, it's being created, it's not created yet, but it's being created, that at least people can say, I know somebody who's talking about it. I know somebody who has started the conversation. And you can find her at SevillaMorgan.com. She has a website. She's on Facebook. She has a private group on Facebook. And as I mentioned before, I'm trying to see about starting a closed group so the group can be found, because apparently private groups can't be found. But I was thinking about the privacy of the women who joined the group. That's my first, that's my priority. So, but if there's a closed group, apparently they can find it, but you can't see. I don't know if anybody has any comments on it, but you can't see the posts unless you're a member. Then I want to start that closed group. I need one person to start it to get it opened. You need to add a name, but so I'm waiting to see who would be willing to do that. I'm never going to push anybody because it's a hard issue. It's a tough issue. But if there's anybody out there that's listening, if you want me to start the group, just instant message me or direct message me on Facebook, and I'll start the group with you, because I'll be in the group too. That's the thing about this. I am also childless, not by choice, so I understand the ups and downs. And I always tell people I am not a pillar of strength all the time. I'm just doing what God said to do. But I found myself crying this morning because I didn't feel like I'm strong enough to do this. And so, but I know that God is in the midst of me.
Yes.
And he's surrounding me, and he's the one that told me to do this. So I'm going to keep doing it. But just know that I know what it's like. I know that some days, I know on Mother's Day, when they ask the mothers to stand up at church, I know the feeling. I know how it feels to sit down, to be in your 40s and to be sitting down, even when all the other women, most of the other women are standing up. I know how it feels. So I have created the space. I'm creating it. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Blab, Periscope, everything. Just, I mean, Savella Morgan. Who can miss that name? And usually God just does everything. It's the way he just does everything and creates everything and plans everything. He's an absolute planner. He's a bigger planner than I am. And I know I'm the consummate planner. So he's just got everything planned out. We just have to go with it. And again, I feel like I have to say this again. Whoever is out there thinking that their platform is not good enough or popular enough or whatever excuses you're giving yourself, stop. There is no excuse. I don't know who that is, but I feel like I have to say that again. There is no excuse. Whatever your platform is, start. Even if you have to start in your basement, start on the weekends, whatever it is you have to do, start. That's me going off on a tangent.
That is terrific, terrific, terrific advice. And I think it's an incredible word of encouragement for whoever's listening, whether you're listening on the recording.
You're breaking up again, Donna.
Wherever you are, just know that if you don't start it, it will never start. And I love the advice that says that done is better than perfect. So don't wait to get your act together and don't wait to make it all happen. Just start it. Right. Just start it. Well, Savella, we've lost your video. We've got your audio, but I think this is probably a great place to just go ahead and stop and thank everybody for being with us today. And please go over to Savella's website, SavellaMorgan.com. If you'd like to know more about me, you can find me at DonnaWoolham.com. And PK, would you like to give your website so people can find you?
My website, like me, is a work in progress. But you can find me at Facebook at PK Eastman.
Okay.
And I'm working on the blog. It's just my perfect is about having things all lined up, but I sort of resist that. And so I'm being pushed by the Lord to let, that's really the next step in my progression. But more importantly, you can find Donna and me and two of our best friend cohort business partners Thursday morning. So tell them more about that if we have a second.
We do have just a second, and you can find us. We are the Aspiring Woman Entrepreneur Summit. So if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, come over there and we'll chat with you. And we have a lot of fun things that are going to be happening over there on Thursday morning. You're seeing this on what the heck is today? It's the 28th of October.
Thursday will be the 29th.
It'll be the 29th of October. So if you're listening to this in December, you're going to have to find the replay. So, Savella, we're so thankful to you today. And thank you for being with us and for sharing your story. And I look forward to people hearing more about you. And if you need a speaker, if you need someone to speak on this issue in your group or organization, be sure and go to SavellaMorgan.com. And I know that she'll be able to help you and work with you to make that happen. Savella, thanks again so much.
Thank you for having me, Donna. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.
Bless you for making this effort on the behalf of people who can't.
Yes.
Thank
absolutely.
you, PK. Thanks for your words of wisdom yourself. I have a feeling you're a very wise woman.
She is.
Oh, well, I'm just older than you.
She is wise. She has a lot of...
only in the calendar. What my friend used to say, or told me to say, says, well, on the calendar, I think I'm 50, but I have at least 300 years of wisdom.
See? Yeah, there's something I feel wisdom from you. So.
Oh, gosh. Well, you're kind.